It was a cold February night. A young woman pulled her car to the side of a quiet road in New Hampshire. She made one phone call, and then she was gone. Not missing for a few hours, not lost in the woods, gone. Completely, permanently, as if the earth itself had swallowed her whole. No body, no confirmed sightings, no definitive answers, just silence. 20 years have passed, and the case of Maura Murray remains one of the most haunting, most debated, most deeply unsettling disappearances in American history. Thousands of amateur investigators have dedicated years of their lives trying to solve it. Podcasts, documentaries, books, Reddit threads that go on for hundreds of pages, and still nothing. So today, we are going inside this case. Every detail, every theory, every strange, unexplained piece of the puzzle. Because this is not just a missing persons case. This is something that will make you question everything you think you know about a 21-year-old college student who, by all appearances, had everything going for her. Let's start at the beginning. Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982, in Hanson, Massachusetts. She grew up in a working-class family. Her father, Fred Murray, was a police officer. She had sisters. She had a life that looked, from the outside, completely ordinary. But Maura was not ordinary. She was exceptional. She was a star athlete in high school, cross-country running, track, all of it. She was disciplined. She was driven. She earned an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. West Point, one of the most prestigious institutions in the entire country. Not everyone gets in. Maura did. But she left West Point after 1 year and transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst to study nursing. Even at UMass, she stood out. She was on the nursing honor roll. She was serious about her future. By every measure, Maura Murray was a young woman with her entire life ahead of her. And then, on the night of February 9, 2004, she disappeared from a road in Haverhill, New Hampshire, and was never seen again. But here is what makes this case so deeply disturbing. The days and hours leading up to her disappearance were strange, very strange. And when you look at the timeline closely, you realize that something was happening with Maura Murray in the days before she vanished, something that nobody has ever been able to fully explain. Let's go back to February 5, 2004, 4 days before she disappears. Maura is a student at UMass Amherst. She is 21 years old. On this particular day, she uses a university computer to look up directions to 2 locations. One is in Burlington, Vermont. The other is in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. She is clearly planning a trip, but she tells no one. She makes no hotel reservations that anyone can find. She makes no clear plans with friends or family. She is researching a solo trip in the middle of winter to remote areas of New England. Why? Nobody knows. That same day, February 5th, Maura Murray sends an email to her boyfriend, Bill Rausch, who is stationed with the Army in Oklahoma. The email is vague. She says something about wanting to take a week off and get away. She doesn't explain where. She doesn't explain why. Just, she needs to get away. Then, on February 7th, 2 days before she disappears, something significant happens. Maura is involved in a minor car accident on campus. Her father's car, which she was driving, gets a small dent. It is not a serious accident. Nobody is hurt, but Maura is visibly upset. Witnesses describe her as distressed. A campus police officer responds to the scene and notes that she seems shaken in a way that seems disproportionate to the minor nature of the crash. The very next day, February 8th, Maura withdraws $280 from an ATM. That is essentially her entire bank account. She also calls a number for a condo rental in Bartlett, New Hampshire. She does not reach anyone. She leaves no message, but the call is logged. She also contacts her workplace and calls in sick for the week. She tells them she has a family emergency. No details, just a family emergency. And she contacts her academic advisor and says she needs to take time off for a family emergency as well. She is telling people there is a family emergency, but her family, when later questioned, has no idea what she is talking about. There was no emergency. Her family says nothing was happening that week that would qualify as an emergency. So Maura is lying, or at least she is using a family emergency as a cover story. For what? That is the question nobody can answer. On the evening of February 8th, the night before she disappears, Maura attends a party at a dormitory on campus. She drinks. Several witnesses confirm she is drinking that night. At some point during the evening, she calls her father. The call lasts about 20 minutes. Nobody knows exactly what they discussed. Her father has given varying accounts of this conversation over the years. In some versions, they argue. In other versions, it is a normal call. But after that phone call, something shifts. Maura goes back to her dorm, and at some point that night, or very early the next morning, she packs a bag for a trip. She packs it with clothing. She packs it with various personal items, and she loads it into her car. Now here is something critical. She also packs alcohol, multiple types of alcohol, boxed wine, Bailey's Irish Cream, a bottle of Kahlua. This detail has always struck investigators and amateur sleuths as significant, because Maura is packing like she is planning to go somewhere and drink alone, not a family emergency, not a weekend with friends. She is packing like she is going somewhere solitary, somewhere she can be alone with her thoughts. On the morning of February 9th, a Monday, Maura Murray's boyfriend, Bill Rausch, tries to call her. She does not answer. Her roommate notices that Maura has not come back to the dorm the night before, and Maura's car is gone. Meanwhile, at around 7 in the evening that same day, a resident named Butch Atwood is driving his school bus along Route 111 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. This road is also known as Wild Amanusic Road. It is a rural, isolated road in the White Mountains, almost no traffic, almost no houses, just trees and darkness and cold. And there, on the side of the road, Butch Atwood sees a car. It is a black Saturn sedan. It has crashed into a snowbank on a curve in the road. The front end is crumpled, the airbags have deployed, and sitting inside the car is a young woman. Butch Atwood stops. He rolls down his window and asks if she is okay, if she needs help. And here is what the young woman says. She says she is fine. She says she already called for help. She says there is no need to call anyone. Butch Atwood is a good neighbor. He offers to let her come sit in the warm bus while she waits. She declines. He asks again if she is sure she does not need him to call anyone. She says yes, she is sure. Butch Atwood drives home, which is just up the road. When he gets inside, he decides to call 911 anyway, just to be safe. He calls. He reports a car accident on Route 111, and the police are dispatched.
But here is the thing. The time between when Butch Atwood sees Maura and when the police arrive is somewhere between 7 and 15 minutes. That is it. 7 to 15 minutes on an isolated road in the middle of winter with snow on the ground and temperatures well below freezing. And when the police arrive, Maura Murray is gone. The car is there. The airbags are deployed. There are personal belongings inside. There is a bottle of wine that has broken or been opened. There is what appears to be a small amount of what may be blood near the vehicle. But Maura herself? Gone. No tracks in the snow leading into the woods. No clear direction of travel. Just gone. This is where the case becomes truly baffling. Police begin searching the area immediately. Dogs are brought in, search teams comb the woods, and they find nothing. No body, no clothing, no signs that anyone walked away from that crash in any discernible direction. It is as if Maura Murray stepped out of that car and simply ceased to exist. Now, let us talk about the theories, because this is a case with many, many theories, and some of them are more credible than others, but all of them deserve examination. The first, and perhaps most straightforward theory, is that Maura walked into the woods and died from exposure. It was winter, it was cold. If she was intoxicated from the party the night before, if she was disoriented after the crash, she may have wandered off the road and collapsed somewhere in the dense New Hampshire forest. The White Mountains are vast. The terrain is brutal. It is possible that her remains are out there and have simply never been found. This theory is supported by a few things. The broken wine bottle in the car suggests she may have been drinking. There was no cell phone call made after the crash, and there is a documented phenomenon called paradoxical undressing, where people suffering from hypothermia in the late stages actually remove their clothing because they feel a burning sensation. It is possible that if Maura died of exposure, her remains would be very difficult to locate, particularly after 2 decades. But this theory has problems. The search dogs found no trail leading into the woods. Snow on the ground should have preserved footprints, at least partially, and the area, while rural, was not so vast that a thorough search should have turned up nothing. The second major theory involves foul play, and this theory has many sub-variations. Some people believe that someone in a vehicle on Route 112 that night either abducted Maura or that she voluntarily got into a vehicle with someone she thought she could trust, and that person then harmed her. There are several reported witnesses who claim they saw various vehicles in the area around the time of the crash. One witness reported seeing a man standing near the Saturn sedan before police arrived. Another claimed to have seen an older pickup truck in the area. But none of these witnesses have ever led to a confirmed suspect, and the credibility of some of these witness accounts has been questioned over the years. What is particularly disturbing about the foul play theory is the geography itself. Route 112 in Haverhill is not a place people just pass through. It is not a highway. It is not a main road. It is a quiet, local road. The idea that a predator just happened to be in the right place at the right time feels uncomfortably coincidental, but it cannot be ruled out. Then there's the third theory, and this one is perhaps the most psychologically complex. Some investigators and researchers believe that Maura Murray planned to disappear, that this was not an accident, that the days leading up to February 9th, the withdrawal of all her money, the packing of the bag, the cover stories about a family emergency, the researching of remote locations, all of it points to someone who was making a deliberate decision to leave her life behind. If you look at the evidence through this lens, it starts to feel almost choreographed. She emptied her bank account, she called in sick to work, she told her academic advisor she needed time off, she packed a bag with everything she would need for an extended period, she drove alone to one of the most remote, sparsely populated regions in New England. Was she planning to start over somewhere? Was she running from something? Was she in a kind of mental health crisis that nobody around her had recognized or acknowledged? Because here is the thing. The week before she disappeared, something else had happened, something that has never been fully explained publicly. There are suggestions, backed by some documentation, that Maura Murray may have been involved in a situation at West Point years earlier that was deeply painful and possibly traumatic. There are references in various investigative accounts to a prior incident involving theft of funds from a fellow cadet. There are also suggestions of a deeply complicated romantic situation, and some researchers have pointed to what they describe as signs of a young woman under extraordinary pressure that she kept hidden from the people closest to her. Her boyfriend, Bill Rausch, has remained a figure of interest over the years, not necessarily as a suspect in any criminal sense, but because the communication between them in the days leading up to her disappearance has never been fully transparent. The email she sent him, the calls they exchanged, these details have been parsed endlessly. Her father, Fred Murray, has been one of the most vocal and heartbroken advocates for finding answers. He has driven to New Hampshire repeatedly over the years. He has spoken to media. He has conducted his own investigations. His grief is undeniable. His love for his daughter is undeniable. But even he has given interviews that left some questions unanswered, and some have noted tensions between his version of events and other accounts. This is not to assign blame to Fred Murray. This is simply to say that the Maura Murray case is one where every piece of information, when examined closely, seems to lead to another question rather than an answer. Let us talk about the evidence at the scene, because there are details there that have never been satisfactorily explained. When police examined Maura's Saturn, they found personal items consistent with a trip, clothing, personal care items, the alcohol. There were also maps in the car, maps of the White Mountains area, which again suggests she was planning to be in that specific region, not passing through, planning to be there. The car had crashed on a curve known locally as Mineral Springs Curve. It is a notoriously dangerous curve. The crash itself was not unusual for that section of road in winter conditions. But here is something that has always bothered investigators. The airbags deployed, which means the crash was significant enough to trigger them, and yet Maura was apparently able to communicate coherently with Butch Atwood afterward. She was not visibly injured, at least not severely. She was upright. She was speaking. But she also told him she had already called for help, and there is no record of any phone call being made from her cell phone after the crash. No 911 call, no call to her boyfriend, no call to her family, nothing. She either lied to Butch Atwood about having called for help, or she said it to dissuade him from calling himself because she did not want anyone to know where she was. That detail, that single detail of telling him she already called for help when she had not, that is one of the most telling moments in this entire case, because it suggests deliberateness. It suggests that in the aftermath of a car accident, in the cold and the dark, Maura Murray's priority was to keep people from knowing her location and from summoning help. Why would you do that unless you did not want to be found? Now, one person who has been discussed in this case for years is a man named Cecil Smith. He was a local law enforcement officer in the area at the time. His name has circulated in online communities and in investigative podcasts as someone whose timeline and whereabouts that night have been questioned by some researchers. Cecil Smith has consistently denied any involvement in Maura Murray's disappearance. He has never been charged with anything. There is no confirmed evidence linking him to Maura. But his name persists in the case, and in 2017, a woman named Alden Pelkey came forward, claiming that a man had confessed to her that he had been involved in Maura's disappearance. The details of that claim are murky and have not led to any confirmed resolution. In 2023 and into 2024 and 2025, the case has seen renewed attention. Cold case investigators, both official and amateur, have continued to examine new angles. Advances in DNA technology have raised hopes. New witnesses have occasionally come forward. But as of today, there is still no confirmed answer, no arrest, no body recovered, no definitive resolution. And that's the thing about the Maura Murray case that keeps pulling people back.
It is not just that she disappeared, it is that everything about the days leading up to her disappearance suggests she was heading somewhere with a purpose, a plan, a destination she never reached, or a destination she reached and chose to vanish from.
Who was Maura Murray, really? Was she a young woman in crisis, overwhelmed by pressures that she could not articulate to anyone around her? Was she the victim of someone who happened to be on that dark road at the wrong moment? Did she walk into those woods on purpose, choosing a kind of ending that she had been contemplating? Or is she somewhere out there, living a different life under a different name, having made a choice that 20 years ago seemed like the only choice she had left? None of those possibilities are comfortable. Each one carries its own kind of weight, its own kind of grief, because Maura Murray was a real person, 21 years old, a runner, a nursing student, a daughter, a girlfriend, a young woman who loved her dog and worked hard and had a future that by any measure should have been long and full. And instead, she drove onto a dark road in New Hampshire on a winter night, crashed her car into a snowbank, told a kind bus driver that she was fine and that she had already called for help, and was never seen again. The woods of the White Mountains are old and deep, and they keep their secrets well. Somewhere in this story, the truth is hiding. Maybe it is in a phone record that has never been fully examined. Maybe it is in the memory of someone who saw something that night and has never come forward. Maybe it is in the psychology of a young woman who was carrying something enormous and invisible and could not find another way through it. Maybe it is in the trees. But until that truth comes out, Maura Murray remains missing, not just from the physical world, but from the closure that her family deserves, the answers that 20 years of searching has not produced, the explanation that would finally, after all this time, allow the people who loved her to understand what happened on the night of February 9th, 2004. If you know anything, if you have ever known anything, if you have heard something or seen something or been told something that connects to this case, the tip line for New Hampshire State Police is still open. The case is still active. The investigation has never been closed. Because somewhere out there, someone knows something, and Maura Murray deserves to be found.